Morning ladies, my name is Paula and I know that most of you probably won't recognise me. It's because I returned to the church quite recently, just before lockdown. It'd been the end of last year, and you probably wouldn't have recognised me from when I was there before, because I was quite possibly the shyest and quietest teenager that was ever born. So for me to do this, yeah, it's quite an interesting, quite exciting thing for me to do. And it's something that people that know me certainly wouldn't expect for me to do. Like everybody else, back in March, lockdown came as quite a jolt, quite a shock. I went into work one day and they just said, "That's it, your contract's terminated." And 5 minutes later I was walking back out again and I had no idea what I was going to do. So I came home and I think I cleaned the house for 2 weeks. You know, what else are you supposed to do when you're only allowed out for 1 hour a day? I don't think I've ever watched the news so much in my whole life. And there were difficulties. My mum had been sick last year, and so she was shielding, and we weren't allowed to go sort of near her or very near her. And so you look at it and a lot of people seen lockdown, seen the shielding, seen the COVID as an obstacle, as a problem. This is getting in my way, this is interfering with my life. And I think from the start I could feel the verses in Matthew 6 about seeking first the kingdom, and I kind of thought, right, well, that's what I'm going to do then. If I've got this time, that's what I'm going to do. I also did simple things to help other people, and that came about accidentally. It wasn't really something I did on purpose. I like to cook and I like to bake, and so I was making buns and I was making soup and I was making all kinds of things. But then when you batch cook, you know, there's only so many nights you can eat a dinner. So I had this brainwave that I could share the stuff that I had made with other people. I have neighbours around me, one in particular who doesn't cook, who won't cook, and who I later discovered during lockdown burnt the cooker. And so I started to share the things that I was making to someone's bench outside the house, or someone's seat outside the house, tables, doorsteps. I used to leave buns, containers with soup in it with wee labels on them, and they knew they were coming from me because I'd already kind of asked people. But I spent my summer doing that with others, and I really, really enjoyed it. That's something that was naturally easy for me to do. For me, an awful lot of what happened during the COVID was about us doing something together, being in it together and not being isolated in your own house, or for a whole lot of people being isolated in your own head. I know a lot of the friends and folks that I talked to, they talked about the fear that came up in them, and I recognise that myself. Before, if you'd asked me before lockdown about life, I'd have said that I was stressed and that work was the reason I was stressed. Other people annoying me was the reason I was stressed. And after I'd been off about 6 weeks, I realised that deep down inside there was still all of that anxiety and all of that other stuff still going on. And I kind of had to go to God and say, look, actually this is me. The anxiety is me. It's in here. It's mine. It's not something that's external. And that came as a surprise to me. But I found an awful lot of people were in exactly that same boat. They were anxious and they were afraid. And the giving out the buns and all those different things was my way of saying, you know, you are not on your own. When I was making these, I was thinking about you. Even if it was, you know, it wasn't an opportunity. I didn't use it as a chance to evangelise. I didn't really talk about Jesus when I was doing it. But I got to then talk to people who I wouldn't normally talk to. And I got opportunities to just show kindness, to just show love. People that would never come into the church, people that knew nothing about God and would, you know, chase me if I tried to talk about him. It just gave me an opportunity to do something else and to do something that felt positive to me. So even from sort of the early part of lockdown, I could see that there was two sides to it. There was this, we've been given lemons. Do you make lemonade with them? What do you do with them? And I realised that actually I had a choice. I had a choice about my own thought life. I had a choice about my own actions and my own behaviour. I could choose whether I could see it as an opportunity or I could see it as an obstacle. And I know loads of people have seen it as an obstacle. I mean, and I recognise why. It's October as I do this now, and I still haven't really properly gone back to work because my job hasn't started again. And that's no small issue. But at the same time, when I went off, it was about seeking first the kingdom. It was about spending time with God. And the things that I have learnt and the time spent with God is probably worth more to me than the money. And that comes as quite a shock that you can actually spend time with God and it have that much of an impact on the inside, or for me an impact on how I think and how I approach things. Those verses in Matthew 6 about seeking first the kingdom, it says, and all those other things will come to you. But the verses that come down after that, talking about, don't be worrying about tomorrow. Each day has its own troubles. And I realised that I was completely running ahead of everything. My life was really lived either worrying about the past and the things that had happened, or it was worrying about the future and the things that were going to happen. And I'd completely forgotten that God knows all of that. He knows all about the past. He knows all about the future and what's going to happen. I wasn't going through the virus on my own. I wasn't going through it not knowing what would happen. And even if I don't know what's going to happen, God knows. And that shouldn't be the kind of anxiety that it really was for me. That was something that will always be. And it's not just even now for the virus. It's always going to be protected and it's always going to be covered. God knows. And I realised I'm so independent. I'm so used to trying to do things for myself. One of the revelations of being off for me has been the I am statements in the book of John. I'm the bread of life. I'm the good shepherd. I'm the way. I'm the truth. I'm the life. All of those things. It was almost like God brought it up sort of close to my face one day. I was trying to be those things for myself. I was so busy and didn't have time for God in the way that I should have done. I was trying to be my own bread. I was trying to be my own truth. I was trying to be my own shepherd. And that one was really difficult. Being your own shepherd. I think the big takeaway from it was that God had no interest in me doing those things for myself. No interest whatsoever. Like Adam and Eve, we were meant to be dependent on him. We were supposed to be with him every day like they were in the garden. And that for me was, I guess it pulled out a whole lot of that fear and all of the roots of those fears. The things that I worried about. It's not that they weren't important to God, but he saw all of those vulnerabilities. He saw all of that pain and all of those weaknesses. He's seen the shortcomings. Like Adam and Eve, we were naked before him, and as they were in the garden, we are now. Is it Revelation 3:17? Is it Hebrews 4:13? I think both of those verses are saying that when God looks at us, he sees all those weaknesses. He sees the vulnerabilities. He sees it. My grace is sufficient for you. And there we are. We're still trying to hide in the trees. We're still sewing our own fig leaves together. We don't realise we're supposed to be dependent on him. I realised that for me, lockdown wasn't so much about me making my own pathway anymore, for myself being my own shepherd. It was about me going to him in dependence and saying, I can't do this. And actually that was fantastic, to release that pressure, that false responsibility inside, to be able to say, God does not want me to be able to do this on my own. I was never meant to be supposed to be able to do this on my own. I was supposed to do this with him. I pray that during lockdown that God would bless you and that you would find your own way to seek first the kingdom and to think about him, and to go to him first. That would be the thing. Just go to him first. It doesn't matter what it is. You're not going to be telling him anything that he doesn't really already know about your stuff, about your brokenness. grace is sufficient for you. Isn't that what it says? My grace is sufficient for you. But it's intended, if you read the second part of that, 2 Corinthians 12, 9 and 10, if you read the second part, verse 10, it says that Paul rejoices in those weaknesses, in the difficulties, in the persecutions, in the insults. He rejoices in those things because it's when he's weak, that's when he's strong. And that's lovely, because he's not interested in us being strong on our own. He's interested in us being weak and then accepting the grace and being strong in him. Don't struggle on your own. Don't struggle on your own. Go to God. There'll be open arms. There'll be love waiting on you. Just go to him. Thank you for your time. Bye.